Welcome to Distracted, the podcast with Angela Lockwood, the place where you will find practical brain-boosting strategies, expert insights, and real-life stories to help busy brains thrive in the age of distraction. Let's go. Welcome to Distracted. I'm Angela Lockwood, and today I'm joined by Lisa George. Now, Lisa is a fellow occupational therapist, as I am, but Lisa and I lead very different lives. She is the founder of Momentum OT and has been in business for 20 years. Actually, now that I think of it, very similar to myself, 20-year anniversary next year of working for yourself. But what I love watching Lisa's journey as a business owner is that she has a really unique way of doing business. She is also known as the remote team queen. And by that very title, we know that remote teams and managing remote teams and really caring for remote teams is her gig. So today I want to talk to her about all the things that she does as a business owner to engage her team who work remotely, but also what does she do as a manager of those people to help her stay focused. So Lisa, welcome to Distracted.
Thank you, Angela. I am very excited to be here.
Lisa, it's really cool to have this conversation because I know you're a pretty busy lady who's got a very unique way of doing work. So I have a whole range of questions I want to ask you, in part to help all of the business owners who might have teams like virtual assistants even, so virtual teams, remote teams. Tell us if you can share with the listeners a little bit, how is your business structured and why is it so different to the norm?
Well, it's possibly not as unique as it used to be. Now that post-COVID, the world of work has changed significantly. But back when I first started this business in 2004, it was a fairly radical thing to embark upon. People thought I was pretty mad, going out and setting up a fully remote workforce. In a world where visibility and having someone at the next desk and being able to physically see people in order to manage them was the status quo and was the comfortable space for managers to dwell in. So I guess when I first started this business, there was a lot of skepticism about how this business would survive. And I guess I had some doubts in my own mind at that point how I was going to make that work because I didn't actually have any sort of experience in leading remotely. I was a remote leader virgin myself, and I needed to acquire the skills and be able to engage the team in a way that was going to emulate a real team culture, despite not being able to be in the same place and space while we were working.
Why did you decide, you're occupational therapist, you're in the health field, why did you decide that remote was the way to go rather than sort of setting up what is classically a clinic where you bring everyone together? What was the decision factor for you?
At that time, I had just come out of a fairly significant breast cancer experience and my mother suddenly passing away shortly thereafter. And I think when you go through a fairly significant life experience and with a touch of trauma thrown in, you do tend to question what life is all about. And at that time, I was working for a major corporate as an injury management advisor. And I was on the treadmill, the 9 to 5, the 5 days a week, and then trying to cram everything into the weekends to just go back on that treadmill again on the Monday. And I think having that experience, that significant life experience, made me question what I was actually doing with my life and how I wanted my life to look going forward from there. So that's when I thought, you know what, I don't really want to be doing this anymore. I don't want to be going 9 to 5. I want to see a bit of the day. I want to be able to do all the things that are important to me. And going forward, if I was able to have children, I wanted to be able to invest or have time available and have that flexibility to be able to, go and do all the things and be available for them when they got home from school, and still be able to, do the things that were important to me personally, like exercise and, look after dogs and walk the dogs and do all the things that I love to do. So, yeah, for me, it was more of a personal decision to shift things. But at that point in time, my employer wasn't willing to offer me any flexibility. It was full-time or nothing at all. And I decided to take that opportunity, I guess, to forge ahead and have a go at doing something a little bit different. And because I was running a community-based service at that time and going into people's homes to provide our services, it was possible for me to have my office at home and be able to go and provide the intervention in people's homes. And then once that sort of took off and it got really busy, I realised that there was a whole workforce of women out there who weren't being offered the flexibility of working from home. They might have been on maternity leave and not able to return to work because their employer basically wanted them there full time, or they were hoping to have children or have other life roles and they didn't have that flexibility available to them. So I wanted to tap into the experience of that network of women, particularly occupational therapists who weren't being given the opportunity to work in a flexible way in order to incorporate all of their life roles. And as an OT, as you know, Ange, we love to have balanced life roles. We are a plethora of roles within our lives. So we're mothers, we're daughters, we're sisters, we're friends, we're parents. Yeah, all the things that we love to do in our lives. But quite often, the role of worker takes over our lives, and leaves very little time or energy to enjoy the things that are important in all those other life roles that we have. So it's been a real privilege for me to be able to build a business around offering that flexibility to people and tapping into an absolute well of professional and experts in their field. It's been my win to be able to get the cream of the industry and offer them that flexibility.
I find that really fascinating, Lisa, because how many years ago would that have been? It'd be 20 years?
24 years since I had the cancer. So I was diagnosed in 2000 at the age of 27. And then it was probably a 3-year process of me going through all the therapies, and I did actually need some stability in my work to be able to go through all of my rehab. So I just did some consulting work for other insurance companies and used other skills before I actually set up at home. But that's when I really started the remote team thing was in 2004.
I find it really interesting because people who are listening now might be thinking flexibility, options, that's just a way that work is now. Work from home options, particularly after COVID. But when you think about it, 20 years ago plus, it wasn't really something that was commonly offered.
No.
And you make a really good point that there's a lot of very skilled workers, particularly women who have either been on maternity leave and trying to come back, that the work options that they need to sustain the things that are important to them or their life roles, which isn't just about working, there wasn't a lot of options for them.
No.
And are you finding that sort of 20 plus years down the track, is there greater flexibility and options for women and also men who are maybe returning from paternity leave? Is there more options for people to work remotely now than what you've seen sort of 20 years ago?
I think there has been some evolution. I think it's the COVID was the big shift, and I think that's what then led me to think there were a lot of businesses out there that were struggling with the whole concept of leading from a distance, and it made me think that I had acquired a lot of skills and experience over that 20 years that I could then pass on and share with people who were struggling with this concept, and actually help them to make it a sustainable situation. I think what has happened since COVID in the last 3 or 4 years is that there's been this knee-jerk reaction back into let's force everyone back to the office because that's what we know works to a degree, but I think there's also created this tension in the workplace where people have had a taste of being able to work from home, and have proven that they're able to do it, but then haven't had the trust of their manager or the business that they work for to be able to remain in that working arrangement. And so I think it's easier for managers and business leaders to pull people back, because that's the way they've always done it, but they haven't necessarily taken the time to learn a different way of leading, so that they can sustain that capacity for their workforce to be flexible. So I think
I have so many questions around some of those things that you just talked about, some of those themes, but it's really important to establish, I think, for listeners, Lisa, you're not talking about one or two of your team members here. How many team members do you have that work remotely?
There's currently 27 that are working remotely, all over. We do New South Wales-based services from Midwest New South Wales to the Illawarra, to the Hunter, and then metropolitan Sydney. But we all work from
not
our
only
homes.
Have you've got a lot of staff, but you also have quite a wide geographical expanse as well. So that's quite interesting too, is it's not just people are in that local community and they can pop into the office whenever they need to. You've got people everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So in saying that, you did briefly touch on that a moment ago. I often think, so I have a virtual team. I consider them as a virtual team. I work from home and work in other people's workplaces. Tell me about trust. How do you, I would see a lot of people's hesitation, a lot of business owners' hesitations is that, how do I know that they're doing the work? How do I know that they're not taking a 2-hour lunch break or putting the washing on, or that they're not being sort of stingy with their time, I guess. Stingy, sorry for international listeners there. But that trust element, if people are going, okay, this is great. I get remote teams. I get the benefit of it. But how in the world do I trust that they're doing what they should be?
I extend trust to my people. And I believe, and this is what has worked for me, is that when you trust people, they generally are trustworthy. It's when you start to come across as not trusting people that people tend to start mucking up. So
can you give some examples of that? Like, what do people do? I want almost want the horror stories here. What are some of the stories that people, or some of the times where you know that things can go wrong?
Yeah, look, I guess it's a productivity thing. For me, I look at output and I look at outcomes and I look at quality of what people are producing. For me as a business owner, they are the things that my brand are built on. They're the things and the features of my brand. Once those things start to slide, then we have a problem. How people get their job done really does not concern me at all. Because if they're working around other responsibilities and other things that they want to get done in their lives, they generally are happier workers and they generally just get on and do the work when they need to do it. And as long as the output is there, then for me in my business, then I'm happy. That's the benchmark, and if my customers are happy and they're getting the service that they expect from us, we do have quality systems in place. We have quality assurance in place. We have mentoring in place. We do have support mechanisms in place for people. And I do have team leaders across each team that keep everyone accountable for what they do. But for me, it's not about clocking on, clocking off and looking at hours. And once I think you start looking at those sort of metrics, I think people tend to start to feel like they're not trusted and they're not respected. And for me, trust and respect is foundational to this model. It's very, very hard to build a sustainable trust, like a sustainable remote team without trust at the foundation. And that's got to work both ways. I mean, people trust me, people respect me. I extend trust and respect back to them. And that has been my experience over 20 years. And very rarely do people let me down, because I have set that up from the very beginning.
What I'm hearing from you is that it is about establishing almost the boundaries right from the beginning, and establishing expectations from the beginning, keeping people accountable, but not watching over their shoulder, and making sure that they're live every waking minute between, the hours of work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the more I see and read and speak to people about this, it's when people feel like they're being watched and monitored, that they're going to be less productive in general. They're not really going to give their best to you. I really love the fact that I can let people work on their own terms. And I know that when they produce something for someone and work with the people that we're entrusted with, that they're going to get the best of that therapist. They're going to get the best outcome. They're going to get the best report, because they're able to work in a really fulfilling way and a purposeful and meaningful way. And at the end of the day, as humans, that's, when we spend so much of our time working, it's so important that that's part of working life, that it is purposeful, that it is meaningful, that you feel like you're making a difference. And I think for us as therapists, and I can only speak as a therapist, being able to make a positive difference in the lives of people every day is what unites us as a team. And that is our mission, that's our vision. We every interaction we have, we just aim to make a positive difference for everyone that we encounter and work with. And I think that's motivating for people too, that when they do actually switch on and do the work that they do, that they're doing it for a real reason, a really positive reason, to invest and empower and enable people to live more independently with whatever life has dealt them, whether that's a medical condition, whether it's a terminal condition, whether it's the aging process, or whether it's a congenital condition they've been born with. So yeah, it's just the joy of being able to do the work that we do on our own terms that I think really helps make this model work as well, especially in the health field.
Yeah, and it sounds like that purpose, even just listening to you speaking, is just a part of what you do. It's who you are. It's what you stand for. So people know that. So when they come and join Momentum OT, they know that they're going to have to abide by that purpose, which is an exciting, beautiful way of being. I'm really interested to hear, because I guess you have to make money. It's not all about making a big difference in life.
No.
So when people aren't being productive, okay, so when you do see some of those value-based qualities of their work reducing alongside the quality that relates to the bottom line of the business, how do you keep people focused? How do you keep people accountable in a way that keeps them the trust lines open, if that question even made sense then? How do you keep people accountable alongside of showing them that they're trusted?
It's a tricky balance, but I think with any management role, there are difficult conversations that need to be had. It's just the way you have them. And for me, it comes from a place of concern, not only for my bottom line, but for that person. And because I make it my business to be intentionally connected with each person that works for me, whether that be through the team leader or through personal interactions with myself on a regular basis, I am able to then have these conversations with people when things are going a bit pear-shaped. And usually there is a very good reason why, particularly if it's out of character for that person to be behaving in that particular way. And then we're able to work through what is actually going on and causing that problem. So we're coming at it from a position of care and compassion and trust, because I'm trusting that person isn't doing this to ruin my business. Generally, there is a reason behind the behaviour, and it's about getting behind, digging a bit deeper and finding out what is going on for that person, and working with them to come to some point of resolution. Now, if that means that they're unable to fulfil their duties at this particular time, They might choose to take a break from the role and resume when they're able to re-engage with what we need to achieve. Or it might mean that we're able to support them in some way, provide some additional support to help them to work through whatever they're needing to work through at that time to become more productive and be able to get their job done, whether it's not loading them up with too much more work, or it could be that they're overworked. They may have taken on too much, and so often there is a reason. And I find that if we address it in a way that is from a position of, I do trust you, I'm not coming at you with an attack, we generally get to the bottom of it and are able to find a resolution.
And that sounds so refreshing. I have so many people come to me to be a mentor because they're at that stage of their life where they're going, I don't feel valued, I don't feel heard, I know I have so much to give, but I don't know what my next step is. And by humanizing, by the sounds of what you're doing, is going, hey, we're in this, you know what we're all about, what's going on. That's how the trust is built around the productivity. Yeah.
That's a really good point you make, Ange, with the person-centeredness of this model. It is a very human-centric model because you lose that sense of personal touch when you're working from a distance, when you're dispersed, and so you need to really bring that human factor to the forefront of everything, because once you remove that humanness, that humanity, it becomes a very cold, distant, disconnected way of working. And I think that's been the mistake of COVID. We were thrown into it and instantly the human factor was removed, right? We all relied on the fact that we were all in the same place working together. And, we missed those water cooler moments and those, chats by the photocopier or whatever you want to call it. So, we removed that instantly and it was just like, oh, well, this doesn't work for me. There's no connection, there's no socializing, there's no this, there's no that, and I think that's been a big thing for me. It's a myth that I've had to try and break with people, that you don't need to disconnect from humanity when you work remotely. You don't need to be disconnected. It doesn't mean you just need to be more intentional about it. And it's the best of both worlds for people, is what I find, that people can connect on their terms, not when, so-and-so Joe Blow decides that he wants to have a chat, walking up to my desk and downloading what happened on the weekend. It's actually a more structured way of connecting, but it then becomes a more meaningful and connected way because you can have someone's attention and they're not resenting the fact that you're standing at their desk talking about something that really you don't have time to listen to.
For a quick 5 minutes. Can I grab you for a quick 5 and then they're still standing at your desk an hour later? I would love to know, just to ask some nuts and bolts questions here. So how do you really, I guess it's a twofold question.
Yeah.
How do you, what are some of the strategies that you speak to your staff about and your team about how to stay focused at home and how to get the work done, but also do all those other things that they want? So that's sort of part one of the question. What are some of the strategies that you give them? But also, what are the strategies that you do to keep your staff engaged as the business owner? What are those strategies that you implement for your team and also for yourself to make sure that you are still connected to them even though they're remote?
Okay, so the first question about the tips and tricks of working from home, part one. So I believe working from home is a real discipline. You do need to be a disciplined person. It doesn't work if you're just going to float from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. You will be unproductive. There is no doubt about it. You need to be quite structured in your approach. I find that is the most effective way of working in an environment that potentially does have a lot of distractions around you. So for me, I pass on what I have found works for me. It won't work for everyone, but generally they take bits and pieces of what does and doesn't work, and they might shift things up a little bit or change it according to their personality type or whatever it is that helps them to focus. So some people like listening to music, some people don't, all those sorts of things. But for me, I have a very clear daily routine that I follow. I've established this over 20 years. It seems to work. I do get my work done generally. I do have days where I don't because I'm just having a bad day. Let's be honest, I'm human. But I do give myself a little bit of slack being the boss, I guess. But I get up early. I'm an early riser, so I'm normally up by 5. I have a morning routine that I call REC, but it doesn't actually REC anything. It's reflection, exercise, and kids, REK. And so that, for me, I find it really important that I fill my cup first in the mornings. First thing, everything's quiet, kids are in bed, no distractions. I can just do what is important for me. Get my blood pumping, get my energy up with exercise and self-care. That's really important for me to keep that going. It might be a run, it might be doing some weights, whatever I feel like doing really. And then I actually get dressed for work. So some people like to float around in their pajamas and try and work. I find that does not work for me. If I'm in my pajamas, I'm going to bed. It's just a matter of association. So for me, it doesn't matter whether I am seeing a client or I'm not seeing a client, whether I'm coming onto Zoom, I still dress for work. I put my makeup on as if I'm going into a meeting. I do my hair. That's just non-negotiable for me. And then I have a dedicated workspace. So some people have tried working from their kitchen bench or their dining room table. That generally does not work. And I found that the people over the years that have failed at working from home have been people who have not had a dedicated workspace. I have found that I need to have a door to close on my workday. Otherwise, the lines start to get blurred and it's easy for me to get distracted by the washing machine tingling off in the background telling me I need to put the washing out or whatever it is that's going on that day. So dedicated workspace really helps me focus. Generally, I have a list of intentions for the day. Some people like to call it to-do lists, but that's my structure. I do the hard things first, that I find that I'm more focused in the mornings. Some people work better at night. We're all different, so it's a matter of finding what works for you in that day and what you need to get done that day to move the dial. And I just do the stuff that is easy for me, or the things that I generally enjoy, my more creative things, I put when my energy is a little bit lower. I do practice deep work, so I will turn off everything. I will put my mobile phone in another room. I will turn off all of the notifications and I will focus on a particular task. I will not answer my phone, put an out of office message on, whatever it takes to actually get a bigger project done, if I need to be able to focus on that. And yeah, you need to be quite intentional with your day and set yourself time to get the work done. And then I do break it up with little bits of things where I go and I do actually put the washing on the line. I might put something in the slow cooker just to get the dinner on, unload and reload the dishwasher, just to break my time up and get my energy and my blood pumping, get time away from the desk, get some sunshine, eat lunch outside so that I get some fresh air, talk to my dogs, that sort of thing. Might clean the pool, whatever, just break it up with a few little bits of sunshine and fresh air and energy that I can burn. And I eat well, always eat well, keep the energy up. That helps me focus. Hydration is very important for me as well. So they're the things that I generally practice and I pass on to other people if they're struggling.
I really love that, Lisa. I think the fact that you can lay out your day in such a clear way to go, these are the things that are my non-negotiables and these are the things that keep me focused. It sounds like a really deep level of understanding of what works for you. And even just when you say, of course, this is a lot of the things that I would talk about in terms of deep work and doing those things early in the morning and understanding your energy flow in the day is really important. And I think for people, you're right, that when they're working from home, the more that they can understand how they work will help them with their productivity and help them with their focus, rather than just getting up in the morning and sort of fumbling through the day.
I guess I am very motivated by productivity. I'm one of those people that I love to see the to-do list getting ticked off. I get a real buzz out of ticking off. Sometimes I even write things on that I've already done just to tick off. So that for me is a buzz. Everyone's got a different thing that excites them, I guess. But that's just me, and that just works for me. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like with the clarity that you have, that's why you have such a successful remote working team, and also such a successful and also a business that has sustained and had really great longevity, and hopefully still will, because you do such amazing work.
Thank you.
For people who are listening to this, particularly business owners who are looking at maybe expanding their business, or even just leaders who have remote teams that want to do things differently, I know that you do have a white paper that you published, which has got some really great strategies that go deeper into what we've talked about here on our conversation today. It's called Remote Team Kings and Queens. So I will include all of the links, first of all, to the white paper, to where you can find out more information about Lisa at Remote Team Queen. But also, if you are wanting to find out ways that you can maybe integrate or adapt some of the productivity strategies into your workplace, that white paper, Remote Team Kings and Queens, is the place to be. Lisa, thanks so much for joining us here on Distracted. And so many people are very much benefiting from your approach into having this beautiful work-life balance that is actually attainable if you do things in a way that is human-centered. So thanks so much for sharing your knowledge here.
So welcome. Thanks for having me, Ange.
And if personally you are in a stage where you are looking at wanting to find greater focus in your own life, then the 31 Days to Focus program is just about to launch in July. So 1st of July, the waitlist is currently open. So you can head over to my website at angelalockwood.com.au, 31 Days to Focus, and you can find out more information there. But until next time, please share any of these episodes that you hear. If you know that you have a business owner, that friend or colleague who is struggling at the moment in managing their remote team, in keeping them focused, in keeping them engaged, and really just you'd love to support them, then share this on any of the platforms. Super excited. We are now on YouTube. So you can also jump on YouTube Music and YouTube Podcast, and you can have a look at it all over there. But thanks so much for your time in listening to Lisa and myself today. And until next time, just enjoy the work you do and share your talents with people far and wide. I'm Angela Lockwood. Thanks so much for joining me.